Good evening. Welcome to the third program in the 2021 Talking Opera series. My name is Kathleen Isley, and I am a member of the Guild of the Glimmerglass Festival. I'm chair of the Education and Community Engagement Committee, and I work with a wonderful group of friends in planning these educational programs. And we have always had a lot of help from the company, primarily from Brittany Lasavoy, who's the Director of Communications at Glimmerglass. And I also want to say, anybody that I've ever asked over the 4 or 5 years that I've done this, anybody from the company that I've ever asked to speak or do something for us says yes to me, just like our speaker tonight did. So the purpose of these meetings is to educate us about everything that's involved in putting together opera and musical theater. And it's also to get us prepared and excited and ready for the season that we're going to see over the summertime. As Maestro said last week, the 2021 Glimmerglass Festival season is a special season for special time. And I got to tell you that by planning and hosting these meetings, I'm really looking forward to what I'm going to see this summer. Our guest tonight, Eric Sean Fogel, is Director of Movement and Choreography at the Glimmerglass Festival. He talked to local talking opera programs on a couple of occasions, specifically in 2017 when he was working on Oklahoma, and again in 2019 when he was working on Showboat. He grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, and became interested in classical music and dance when he was young. After graduating college, where he studied dance and theater, he earned scholarships to continue study in New York City. He performed as a dancer at the Met, at New York City Opera, LA Opera, and several dance companies in New York. He performed on multiple Broadway, national, and European tours. His first opportunity to do choreography for an opera was in 2010 when he choreographed Carmen for the Lyric Opera of Kansas City. Somehow, and perhaps Eric will tell us something about this tonight, Eric came to the attention of Francesca Zambello. In 2011, when she began her tenure as artistic and general director, Eric came on board at Glimmerglass. He's been involved in 10 years of diverse staging at Glimmerglass. If you were to go to his webpage, not tonight, or not at the moment at least, ericshawnfogel.com, you'll see pictures of the productions that we've seen from him over the last 10 years at Glimmerglass. I don't want to recite them all because there are 15 of them, and including a couple of youth operas. But like all of us, in our work, sometimes there's something that we're particularly proud of. And Eric told me that he's particularly proud of the production of Candide, which went on to play in 2 opera houses in France and at the LA Opera and the Kennedy Center. This summer, Eric is co-directing an adaptation of Offenbach's Songbird and Verdi's Il Trovatore. He's directing a musical theater concert entitled To the World. In late August, when he packs up his bags and leaves Cooperstown, he'll return to the staff of the Metropolitan Opera for a new production of Don Carlos, travel west to create a new production of Florencia of the Amazon at Chicago Lyric Opera, and then work on a new production of Carmen at Minnesota Opera. So before Eric joins us, I want to tell you that Brittany has muted the audience, but she and her intern will monitor a chat room so that you can prepare and submit questions for Eric. If we don't cover them in our discussion, Eric will answer them at the end. And now, Eric, welcome to live streamed Talking Opera.
Thank you, Kathy. That felt like a retirement presentation. So it's weird to hear all credits at once. I'm very happy to be here. I cherish Glimmerglass and have worked there now more than a decade, and it is my artistic home. I consider it my home. I even went last year when there was no season to spend the summer in Cooperstown, because I couldn't imagine a summer not there. So how did Francesca find me, you asked?
Yeah.
We were working on a musical called Little House on the Prairie. And I was the associate choreographer at the time. This is the end of the 2000s. And this was before she was going to take over Glimmerglass and the program at the Kennedy Center. And she asked, do I want to come up for a summer and help create a musical theater program, launching with Debbie Voigt and Annie Get Your Gun at a summer opera festival. At the time, I was primarily New York based or wanting to try to get to Europe as much as possible. So the original offer wasn't, I definitely want to do that. I was like, wait, what? And we really have taken the past 10 years to develop my role at the company, and how things work really in bringing musical theater artists to the opera world, but also more and more opera performers who have musical theater and stage background. There's a large number of our young artists who started off as dancers. Or in musical theater. There's a large number of our staff, some on this call I see, who have also a theater major or a theater background. So we're very fortunate that the minds were open. And because of Francesca's intuition, I think I was allowed to really create, and we just have such unique programming at Glimmerglass and such unique productions between what the production staff can create physically and then what the artistic team can create in rehearsals. It really is my favorite place to work and my artistic. That being said, it never gets easier. There's always a new challenge. It is the company of what if? What if we do this? What if we do that? So there's always new challenges. One more thing about the musical theater program, we have included now, along with the young artists who sing opera, there are young artists who are musical theater majors every summer. Those are the dancers you see in the productions. And over the past 10 years, 63 have now gone through the program and have gone on to multiple Broadway shows, television shows. We've been really fortunate, really fortunate with the talent we've had in those programs.
Does every company have a director of music and dance? I mean, is this a typical position?
The program that we have that coincides with the opera productions is the only one in the country that marries musical theater and opera. Now, I will say, Sean Curran at Opera Theater of St. Louis has held residency as the choreographer for longer than I have at Glimmerglass. But I'm not sure if they gave him a title. So thank you, Francesca, for that.
So this has been an experience that's really had a huge impact on your career and on what your skills and that you've developed as a person and the work that you now
and let me explain.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a director or choreographer in the opera world, or even in musical theater, you're freelance.
Yeah.
So you're always with new artists, you're always at new companies. And to have one company that believes in you and trusts in you for over a decade, I'm not showing up to work trying to prove anything. Everyone trusts me and I can really get into the material. And it changed the way I work. It really changed my career.
Is it typical for people with dance backgrounds to direct? I mean, because I see, because you're doing some co-directing and some directing this summer. So is that a typical route for somebody who dances and then choreographs and then?
More and more, yes. On Broadway, you have Rob Ashford, Jerome Robbins, Rob Marshall, Kathleen Marshall, Jerry Mitchell. That's a traditional route. In the opera world, it's a little less common, but you have had operas choreographed and directed by Sean Curran, Mark Morris, Christopher Wheeldon, Balanchine. So it does happen. A little about my background that's unknown is I was going to be a music ed major. So
but working with young artists is music ed.
So I do come to the opera world with a musical background. I was a church organist in college. So eventually I wanted the music to be a physical expression, not just with my fingers. So I moved to dance, but I do have a classical music background. So it was not a difficult transition to move back into the opera world full time.
Yeah. So I think maybe when I watch other productions, I should pay a little more attention who's doing that kind of stuff, because you don't always pay attention. But when I look at your website and I see all those pictures, and the pictures kind of trigger the memory of some of what happened, which, I mean, it was a moment in time and now that time is gone, but I like looking at the pictures to remember them. So again, go check out his website. So you're doing all of this season with COVID restrictions. So has that changed the way you're doing things?
So the original start of learning how to stage was with all of these diagrams. That is the outdoor stage, and it has dots making sure everyone is 6 feet apart. And then also I had to stage out every opera I'm working on to make sure no one was 15 feet in front of someone who was singing.
Now, is that like a score that tells people where to? I mean, I've not seen that because I told you, this isn't my field.
It is, and it is self-made. This is what I do for every show. I create diagrams.
How fascinating.
Because you don't have time to figure it out once the people are in front of you.
Right.
Fran Lebowitz has this great quote where she says, being a choreographer or director is the worst job in the world. She said, it's as if I was a writer, but all the letters were staring at me, waiting for me to tell them what to do. And that is exactly directing and choreographing. So if I don't go into the room with the plan, it's not going to go well. So I typically draw everything out ahead of time so I can visualize it.
You see it in your head.
But these COVID restrictions at the moment are going to go away. So at the moment, we are looking at staging in a more comfortable way, not only because we're outdoors, but the science has showed that because we are a certain percent vaccinated, above 80% vaccinated as a company, we can rehearse as normal outside.
Oh. Okay.
So, but if anything were to happen, we have the plan.
And you want to go back to something less restrictive. I mean, you because of what you want to do in your head.
Well, that's a great question, Kathy, because nothing has been in my head for a year. So I'm hoping, and I'm sure I will remember, it will be old hat to stage and rehearse again. But um, it will be interesting to see. This will be the first live rehearsal for most of the artists in 15 months.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's going to be emotional.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
So the two programs that I'm working on mostly are Songbird, which is Offenbach's La Péricole, and then the musical theater concert To the World. Now, Songbird was originally a 3-act operetta by Offenbach that Kelly Rourke, Maestro Jim Lau, and I have reduced to 90 minutes. And I see you, Charlotte. I'm going to use your questions to prompt. We have reduced the opera to 90 minutes. It's not that hard with an operetta. There's a lot of extra stuff in operettas. So we didn't necessarily change or lose any plot by condensing it to 90 minutes. We are doing it in French, but it's also in English. So it is bilingual because we're taking place in New Orleans, which at the time would have been a bilingual city, and it's setting it during the Prohibition era of New Orleans. And the fascinating thing about the Prohibition and the Jazz age is it covers all of the same issues that Offenbach was toying with: satire, excess, politics, and debauchery. So by placing it in 1920s, we also have a fun exercise in changing the musicality. So there will be a brand new orchestration. Instead of the 40-piece 18th century sound of Offenbach, you're going to get a 14, 15-piece jazz band. But not a single melody or rhythm is changed. Just the style. And we have a fascinating, really talented 14-person cast. We started really figuring out the plot with Kelly. What is in English? What is in French? And I don't know, I'm really excited where we ended up. And I'm even more excited that to hear this orchestra play this. No one has heard it. It's almost as if we're doing a world premiere.
You know, I was listening again to Maestro's program yesterday, and he was talking about reorchestrating some of the Wagner stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, do you know music so much that you can, because this is what Jim is doing, right? He can hear it in his head, and he's got a reduced orchestra, and he knows the sound of a jazz orchestra, but he can hear it in his head, but he doesn't get to hear it himself either until he has everybody together. It's just astounding to me.
This is the same thing that I do. I can see it in my head. I can see it in my head, but I don't know if it works until the people are in front of me. So did anybody here watch The Queen's Gambit on Netflix, where she imagines all the chess pieces moving? That's me in my bed at night, only it's performers instead of chess pieces.
So, and I know that Kelly Rourke has got I don't know, did she grow up in New Orleans so that's home to her? Yeah, I learned
Yes,
that one summer.
Kelly and I have a little bit of a rivalry because we're from the two southern towns. I'm from Charleston and she's from New Orleans. So we have a little bit of a rivalry there. Uh, but she definitely has brought a lot of authenticity to the piece. And there's a lot of references to cocktails and drinks from the area, and some geography digs as well, if you're a big fan of the region.
But so there's all sorts of repertoire available to you, but it's and the programs were not announced until March 1st. So sometime before March 1st, I mean, when did all of this, because you didn't have much time, and you had there are a lot of things that could have been chosen. I don't know if there were some other things that were thrown on the floor.
So some of that I can answer and some of that is secret, okay?
Okay.
Typically, I am booked 1 to 4 years in advance. And I have 1 to 4 years to marinate the ideas. For something like Candide, I was listening to Candide 3 years before the first rehearsal. So you are right. I was aware of the program a little bit after Christmas. It was my Christmas present. And 6 months is a very short time to incubate the ideas in your head, but it's also a half opera. It's only 90 minutes. So I think I'm okay.
You're incubating ideas. Music is being rewritten. There's 2 languages. Were you involved in selecting some of the young artists who'll be involved with this?
Yes. So every year I do weigh in to the point where they kick me out because depending on the movement needs, I will try to push for certain people over certain people. Bill has been in rehearsal with me before, and he has seen me push the young artist for sure. So
you mean the opera singers to move?
Yeah.
To move?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I
morning
definitely
calisthenics. Morning calisthenics so that they can be limber and in shape.
So I was involved with the casting. In particular, as we wrote the roles for Songbird and we started to decide what the personalities were, extracting from the 18th century version to the 1920s in New Orleans, knowing the young artists that were coming, this person would be really great for this role. This person would be really great for this role. And then I just hope that the casting works out because, as you know, they're in multiple productions. And I'm never fighting for voice. I'm always fighting for acting and movement. So voice usually comes first.
So you've low status, but you've accomplished a lot and you're on there for 10 years. So what's the story? What's the story in Songbird? Just the synopsis.
It's fascinating because today I spoke with Isabel Leonard and Bill Burden and Michael Pandolfo, the 3 principals, along with Kelly and Jim. And the story is the life of an artist, even today. There's a young couple, not a young couple, there's a couple who are young artists trying to make their way, Picchio and Songbird. They're struggling artists. They're going speakeasy to speakeasy and performing. He wants to get married. She wants stability. And then a very wealthy donor comes along. She agrees to go to dinner with him in order to get a really nice dinner, a nice new dress, and some money. He gets jealous. He thinks it's so the donor can take advantage. They argue. they make up, they get married.
So it'll
And
be fun.
well, it's an operetta. It has to have a happy ending. Go to Trovatore for the dramatic ending, and go to Songbird for the happy ending.
Yeah. So you said it's quoted, it's on the website. It's a piece to remind us that the best is yet to come. Why do you say that?
I do say, well, first of all, I said that still in the height of the pandemic, so it had to be true.
I had to get better.
Exactly. Something had to get better. But also, I truly believe for all artists, if you stick to your artistry and you're honest about who you are as an artist, it will get better. People will want your story, your artistry, your honesty. There's so much false commercialism that people gravitate to what is honest and real. And that are these two characters, Pikio and Songbird. Their love for each other is real, and their love for performing is real, and that wins in the end. And it was something I had to remind myself every day of 15 months of being unemployed as an artist during the pandemic.
Yeah, yeah. So do you want to talk about the other piece that you're involved in, which is the To the World concert, which I guess you're primarily putting together? And I wondered if, you know, if that was really important to you because you couldn't put on a musical this summer.
Well, it was more important to me because I was given the opportunity to select all my favorite songs that I want to hear live with an orchestra.
Okay.
So that's fantastic. But I was given a couple parameters. After speaking with Kelly and Francesca, we came up with the idea of To the World. And what we mean by that is almost now a little dated thanks to vaccinations. But we thought, since you can't travel, let's travel in song. But in doing so, we didn't anticipate that a majority of the rep of American musical theater takes place in America. So that put us at a little disadvantage right off the bat. So after digging and digging and digging, I put together a list of songs, and I went through with Kelly and Maestro again, just like we did with Songbird. And we've come up with a list of songs that takes us to Spain, Italy, the United Kingdom, Russia. We also go to Fairy Tale Land, and we have something from The Wiz and Shrek and Into the Woods. And I wanted to make sure that we had that we also had representation from no one really gets more than one song as a composer, so we try to get a wide variety. But we also have representation of non-white composers because it's very, very rare in musical theater. And that we also have representation by female composers, which is even rarer in music. I mean, it's basically Betty Comden, Lynn Ahrens, and Janine Tesori, all of which are represented as female composers in this concert. So that was tricky to put that together because the qualifications of songs was really narrowing of what could be chosen, while also choosing songs that are appropriate for the singers we have. Somehow still, I thread a story together of which we begin in New York with On the Town, New York, New York. Then we have a song from In the Heights, It Won't Be Long Now, before she travels. And then one of the characters like, we should leave New York. So they sing Put On Your Sunday Clothes from Hello Dolly. And they and then they begin to travel the world, and we go all around the world. Did you know that My Fair Lady was the same year as the Titanic, 1912? the Titanic sank the same year My Fair Lady was happening. Also, the first season of Downton Abbey, in case anyone's in Downton Abbey.
Mhm.
So it was a fun research on all of these things that collide historically. So we kind of go backwards in time. Yes, you will get One Day More from Les Miserables, and you will also have um, the amazing song from Don Quixote, The Impossible
The
Dream,
dream, the impossible dream.
which there's a lot of dreaming. A lot of the lyrics deal with dreaming. A lot of the lyrics talk about travel. A lot of the lyrics talk about the world. And one of the most poignant lyrics in the musical theater concert to me is when Don Quixote says, "The world will be better for this." And I
Mm.
just think of him referencing the artist on stage singing live music, and how we've needed that in our lives past year, and how the world will be better for this. And that has really got me through the past months, thinking about how special that is.
So it isn't just some favorite numbers. It's with a thread, with a theme, with creativity. Because I mean, it could have been nice just with a lot of great tunes. But
Well,
that,
hopefully it's all the above. And if you just want great tune, enjoy your picnic and hear great tunes. And if you want to dig it a little deeper, hopefully I've created something that will give you that.
uh-huh, uh-huh. Now you found out that you were going to be involved in Songbird around Christmas time. When did you get the present of this concert?
It was always on the books, but we weren't quite sure how to
Okay,
handle it. And then that fell into place between February and March.
but that's not that far away from June.
No, and to be honest, the hardest thing was for our poor director of artistic administration and the librarian, for Amra and Kristen, because
Mm.
when I put together a random song of 19 musicals, they have to go to each one of those to get the rights and to get the correct
Oh.
music.
Hmm.
So
So,
it was a lot of work.
okay. So, Maestro told us a little bit about Il Trovatore and reimagining the story from the point of view, and I'm not going to pronounce her name right, Azucena. I can't do any of these foreign names well.
That's okay. Azucena.
Azucena.
Yep.
Okay. So how does that, so you're also involved in that project. So how does the reimagining affect the kind of work that you're doing on that piece?
Well, it's really great. Last week, I spent several days in a row at Francesca's here in New York, and we just were drawing and coming up with the concept of Trovatore. What's really great is how different each show is becoming. Magic Flute, Trovatore, Songbird. They all are getting their own physical language, their own sound, obviously, because of the different composers and orchestrations. Um, but it's really fascinating digging into Verdi in 90 minutes, because the story is so rich and the music is so rich of this woman who's seeking vengeance.
Mm.
She's seeking vengeance for being misunderstood and being treated wrong, and she gets it, but a lot of bad things happen along the way. So as you hear the way I describe these three pieces, you can even feel how the colors and the tones of each piece are so different.
Mm.
Often I'm asked, how do you rehearse like all of these things at the same time? But when you're in the room with that material, what is asked of you based off of the material really places you square in that room. You have, and the show kind of drives itself because of the tone.
Mm. So are you working, do you do anything for the other three too? Because you've got this big title. I, I mean, are you involved with everything? Like Maestro sounds like he has some role in everything.
All heads that you see on that title page probably do more than you ever imagined.
Mm.
But it's because we all just want the best product for the company overall.
Mhm.
And we'll help each other's departments whenever asked. If there's one thing I do from season to season is I brief the new choreographers coming in. I help cast the dancers and help ease them into the repertory system. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Some people don't want to work with such repertoire. They want to stick with their one show that they can rehearse.
Mhm.
And then other times people like myself find it very refreshing because I can also step away from a project or step away from a problem, work on something else, and then come back and a different solution will have appeared.
Yeah, it's been so great to be part of the guild, and I ushered a lot, and just to get kind of a view of something that I never had any understanding of it at all. It's so complex and so fascinating and awesome.
It takes so many people to make Glimmerglass happen, but that also includes the guild. I mean, I'm the beneficiary of 10 years of parties and meals, and also constantly being checked every time I sneak into the back of the theater. So I appreciate you and thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Have there been any questions that have come in?
I have one myself.
Okay.
Eric, can you talk? Is there dance in Songbird? Can you talk about the movement in Songbird and how the new setting is influencing that?
Yes. So this summer will be the first out of the 10 that I've been there. So my 11th summer that we don't have per se the musical theater dancers. There was going to be no dance because of the COVID restrictions. Now, I have a few weeks to come up with a lot of movement because we are in a speakeasy. It's got a can feel. I have inserted a Keystone Cop, Busby Berkeley kind of chase scene before the finale that I really need to sit down to paper and create. So there won't be dance as you have seen in the past. There won't be big production numbers, but the staging will be more intricate than we originally planned.
What has it been like? So I see you've had your diagrams and whatnot. But when you do that, you have typically walked the stage for the most part. And this will be a brand new stage, brand new shape, brand new size. Is there anything you can tell us about that process?
Yes, that scares me because I have been choreographing and directing exclusively for the proscenium, not only at Glimmerglass, but internationally. I'm in the proscenium, I'm in the opera house. When COVID happened and a lot of people switched to digital media and creating for digital media, I put my foot down in the beginning because I was like, I'm a live theater creator. I don't want to create for film or for digital media. And then the clock ran out and I had no choice. So I had to start creating for digital media. The same thing here. I have not, it has been over a decade since I choreographed for an outdoor stage. That was the St. Louis Muni in St. Louis, which is a massive outdoor theater that seats 12,000. So we're not 12,000, but we are an outdoor theater that does not have a backing. It does not have wings. So I don't know yet what I don't know. As an artist, that is equally scaring and also thrilling, because it means I get to create something I never would have created before, or I never would have imagined. So I arrive next Sunday, and I will probably be looking at the space before I go get the keys for my apartment. It'll be more like I'm going right now to see how much is set up. And I think I saw Abby's name on here, so she may be kicking me off the property.
Well, they started putting the truss up today.
I saw pictures or text to me, and then I got really upset that we can't leave that scissor lift for the show.
Oh. And then is weather impacting any of your staging in any way?
Not at the moment. For the years, I spent 4 years working at the St. Louis Muni, which is an outdoor theater, and we had a weather contingent plan. We have not discussed that yet for Glimmerglass.
Yeah, no, that's definitely.
There will be a
yes.
There will be a weather contingent. Like, this is a simplified. These things are considered dangerous if the floor is wet, but if the floor is too wet, I don't know if we'll have an audience. So we will see how that happens. Normally, that time of year we are good. It's normally like afternoon thunder deluge.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be different if we were doing May, June, right?
It can be,
but
so 11 o'clock will be great.
I don't want to jinx anything.
No, yes, no, don't do that. So we do have a question. So, for example, when programming to the world with all of those narrow qualifications, how do you know a song is right for a singer?
That goes back to what Kathy was asking earlier. I know the voice type, and I know the personality and characteristics most of these singers bring because I've sat through their auditions or I've worked with them before. So I'll pitch it, and then it goes to the other staff members. It goes to Alan, Amra, and Maestro to say, absolutely not. We have a couple, though. We have a couple stretches. I don't want to announce them because we don't know if they will work yet. But we have a couple songs that we're doing with singers singing in a style you might not expect.
That sounds fun. Another question, how does your music ed education factor into your daily life? Oh, sorry, Eric, I muted you instead of muting me.
Music led me, obviously, to dance, which led me to acting and choreography and performing and now direction. In a daily life, I have to say I'm a music and language junkie. So I like to listen to everything from classical music to pop music. I can't exercise unless I have pop music. I listen to classical music at night. I listen to operas. I listen to musical theater. I listen to radio stations in other languages. So I find that my day-to-day is almost orchestrated and underscored by music. But isn't everybody's? Like, if you are feeling a certain mood, it's Nina Simone. If you're feeling something, it's Mozart. I'm sorry, Justin Bieber. You guys, the Guild, Justin Bieber has a good album out. But it just depends on how the day goes. And I do feel like I think we all do it. We underscore our day with music.
One thing that we didn't touch on was how, when you're directing these pieces, how the designers start fitting into that. I mean, I don't think there's going to be a lot of scenery this summer. There'll be costumes, but how do those kinds of things this summer fit into the works that you're deeply involved with? Because you're directing, which means you must have some say in this. After Abby Rod, who has the budget, right? Can't hear you.
Sorry, Brittany, I was trying to be cognizant and muting myself, and then I realized I can't unmute. I love design meetings. I love. It's one of my favorite parts. I just had one last week for a production next summer at Glimmerglass, which I can't say. But they were also new designers, so it was really exciting to like work with them and to meet new designers. There's a new set designer, a costume designer this summer, Christelle Matou, who's French. So she'll bring a nice authenticity to both Songbird and Trovatore, which takes place somewhere in Europe. We start the same way I just did with you. We start with a mini brief about the goals and the synopsis of the piece and where we're trying to go. But you don't want to plant ideas in designers' heads. You just want to say Songbird, debauchery, 1921 New Orleans. But you don't want to say tuxedos, Mardi Gras, flapper skirts. You don't want to design for them. You just want to give those nuggets that get their head and their creativity spinning. And Francesca taught me this because I'm very happy to stay with Mark McCullough, lighting designer, Peter Davison, set designer, Francesca directing, myself choreographing, Jessica John or Eric Teague or, Paul Taswell, like a lot of the same people that I've always worked with. But what Francesca taught me is when you throw in that one or two new designers, they will take the production in a way that you may have not thought of, which really stretches your creativity and allows you to create something that maybe you wouldn't have. And let's face it, as you said, 15 productions at Glimmerglass. I gotta reinvent the wheel. I don't want to repeat myself. I don't want Brittany to say, haven't we seen enough productions by Eric Sean Fogel? So working with creative teams and new designers really helps you do that and really helps you think in new ways. So we have these conversations just like we did tonight. Everyone goes away, you come back, you look at more images, you say, oh, I like that, I like that. You go away, you come back, there are renderings. And then you start saying, oh, we have one too many mobsters, or I think we only need one priest in this scene. Because Songbird is a reduced cast, so it's already looking like the setup to a joke, right? An artist, a priest, and a mobster walk into a bar. That is Songbird. I don't know the punchline.
Eric, do you think that there is such a thing as too much incubation time in terms of preparing for a production? And, is having less time, like the 6 months, maybe that brings out new ideas and things like that?
Well, it definitely brings anxiety. I would say yes, because you hit too much incubation time and then doubt creeps in. But as Dustin, our stage manager, says, the show will open. I may not be done. My work may be good or bad, but the show will open. The show will open. And the performers will be good because this is what they do. So I think there is a point where there could be too much gestation time. There's definitely a point where there's too much rehearsal, because you can lose your cast. They will stop wanting to rehearse. So you're always taking the temperature, not just for COVID, right? You're taking that temperature to be like, are they, because once those performers claim ownership and they've made up their mind, it's really hard to get in there and change it with the new idea. And you just have to honor that and respect that they're the ones who have to perform every night, not me. So I try to be really aware of that. And then the great thing about the opera world is I don't plan on going anywhere. So a lot of these pieces will cycle again. So I'll get like, there's an opera that's coming next season that I worked on a decade ago. And now I get to think about it in a new way.
What do you wish more young opera singers understood about movement?
I don't have to anymore. That's a great question. When I started in 2011, it was pulling teeth, and I was the least popular person on campus. And I think we now attract artists to Glimmerglass who want to do the type of productions we're creating. Yeah, the industry has really changed in the past decade, so I don't have to worry about it anymore. I also build the movement and the choreography based on the comfortability level and the character development of each person. I'm not out there trying to make people a Rockette. There's no time for that.
And you touched on this a little bit. This is a question we received. What helped you remain hopeful or keep hopeful during the pandemic?
Glimmerglass, probably my number one answer, because I was told somewhere in the summer of 2020 that we would have a season, but we don't know what it would look like. And that I would be involved. And then after Christmas, when all the titles started rolling in and I had work to do and I had operas to learn and scene breakdowns to create and casting to help and rehearsal schedules, before the world was back as we know it with vaccines, I felt back even in January because my work was back. And as an artist, so much of my identity is wrapped in my work. And it was a moment where you realize, oh, maybe that's not healthy, but it is what it is. You know, I am an artist and my life is my work, and Glimmerglass is my life. Like it truly is. So there was an early moment of a lot of us discussed that we couldn't listen to music. It was too painful. It made us think of the productions we had done or the productions we couldn't do or we were supposed to be doing. I had a crazy year. I was supposed to be in Australia with Porgy and Bess. I was supposed to be in South America with West Side Story. And even the future work, 2-3 years in advance, everything, people didn't say, don't worry, we're going to keep 2023 intact. People erased their books completely. So I went from 3-4 years of future work to we're in a global pandemic, we're a national unrest, and your industry has zero planned for the future. So at first, listening to music was very, very difficult. And then the company was one of the things that helped me get through the pandemic by presenting future projects, by ensuring my anxiety that I would be rehired. I'm sorry if that sounded sappy.
Why? We love that. We love when people love Glimmerglass. This will be one of the last questions. So if anyone else has anything, go ahead and throw it in the chat. But I don't know if you referenced what you had worked on digitally, if anything, during the pandemic, but what did you learn from that? And is there anything you plan on keeping as we move forward?
Oh, that's a great question. What I learned is that I should be a film and TV editor and make a lot more money. Because telling stories live on stage is the same way as editing and telling a story in digital media. However, it's a lot less personal. I created, for the Glimmerglass Gala, we did a parody on the telephone hour from Bye Bye Birdie.
Mhm.
And I created a dance piece for the Kennedy Center Gala to the meditation from Thais. Both pieces, I never saw a single artist in person.
Mm.
I would choreograph from video, I would email it, they would send back. I would send notes to the editors via email. None of it was in person. So what did I learn from that? Telling stories is telling stories no matter what the media you're in. What I'll take away from that, I can't wait to be in a room outdoors with people, working and creating with people again. Live humans, live music.
That's great. Thanks, Eric. Kathy, I think that was our last question.
Okay, so thank you, Eric. I'm really glad that you are comfortable in the Cooperstown area and that Glimmerglass is your home, and you've spoken to Talking Opera 3 times now, and you've got so much to offer us that you'll probably hear from me again, or my successor. So we have one more Talking Opera. Eric, we are going to talk to Denise Graves next Monday at this time at 7 o'clock about the Passion of Mary Cardwell Dawson. We've been so excited about it that we've hardly dare announce it in case it didn't really come true. But I remember the gala. I told Brittany the gala was in my zip code and in my price range. So I went to the gala, and I remember the discussion with Sandra Seaton, and at that time it sounded like it was incomplete. So it'll be interesting to hear how it's coming along. So I was going to make a comment referencing back. Abby Rod, in our very first Talking Opera, said something like, "Be kind to us," because we've never done a season like this before. I mean, the decision had to be made at a certain point in time. These are the conditions in which we are given by the state. We're going to have to plan for outdoors because we have to start planning. So, and then Talking Opera has gone online. Last week we had somebody from Idaho. I mean, it's giving us a new audience, but last week we ran into the situation where only 100 people could get in. It doesn't look like it was a problem this week, but we're all doing things for the first time. This Talking Opera program was recorded, and I certainly hope you don't mind because it's going to be available. I sent it off to some people that don't stay up till 7 o'clock in order to watch programs, and they've watched them, and so they're more ready for this week. So let's see, one other guild. What?
Send me the link.
Oh, okay.
Send me the link. I have family members that will up your views.
Oh, good. Yeah, because I want you to know that this is worthwhile to spend your time doing. I didn't have to drive through a deer gauntlet. I usually go to a deer gauntlet in order to get down into Cooperstown at night. But anyway, finally, I'm speaking to the members of the Guild. You get perks when you're a member of the Guild. And the perk you're going to get is you're going to get notice pretty soon of the Glimmerglass Gala, which is a chance to help raise money for Glimmerglass Festival. And it's going to be on August 3rd at the Atasaga. So again, thank you, Eric. It was nice talking to you tonight. And I'll see the rest of you next week at our final Talking Opera season or program when we talk to Denise Graves. So good night. And thank you, Brittany, again.